Some people walk into your life wearing smiles, speaking wisdom, even offering love, yet something about them feels off. You leave their presence tired, confused, or anxious, but can't explain why. These aren't ghosts or myths. They are human demons, people who drain your energy while hiding behind charm. To protect your peace, you must learn to recognize them before they take more than your time. They take your soul. Not all dangers come with a warning sign. Some of the most destructive presences in our lives don't announce themselves as enemies at all. They arrive as companions, advisors, or even lovers. They speak our language, echo our hopes, and mirror our values so perfectly that at first, we don't even notice how our inner ground begins to shift. These people are not supernatural beings, but their effect feels almost spiritual, like a slow draining of your essence. You feel it in subtle ways. You begin a conversation feeling centered and leave it feeling anxious, restless, or hollow. You walk away from an encounter and the room is quiet, but your mind is loud. Your body feels heavy, your breath shallow, and your thoughts tangled. This is not weakness on your part. It is a sign that something unseen is at work. Energy is being exchanged without your awareness, and you are on the losing side of it. In ancient traditions, including the Shaolin teachings, this phenomenon was never treated as superstition. It was understood as a reality of human interaction. Not all who smile wish you well. Some masks are worn for survival, but others are worn for deception. Not every predator uses teeth or claws. Some use attention, sympathy, or admiration as their hooks. When you think of an enemy, you might picture someone openly hostile, but the more dangerous type is often the one who offers help while slowly eroding your clarity. They do not push you off your path. They walk alongside you just close enough to nudge your steps until you're headed in a direction you didn't choose. By the time you realize it, your sense of self feels blurred, your instincts muted. You begin to question your memory, your perception, and even your worth. These individuals feed on reaction, not reason. They don't need to attack you directly. They simply introduce a steady fog into your life. Confusion, guilt, overthinking. These are the currencies they trade in. They know that your energy is not just in your body, but in your focus, your emotions, and your attention. Each time you replay a conversation, defend your boundaries, or second-guess your own decisions, you are investing energy in them. This exchange is invisible but very real. In the Shaolin view, energy is not metaphorical. It's a living current moving through your breath, your spine, and your voice. If you don't guard it, someone else will use it. You might notice that after being with such a person, you feel not only emotionally heavy but physically tired. This is how you know that something deeper than words is happening. Learning to recognize this hidden nature is not about becoming paranoid or fearful. It's about cultivating discernment. To walk in peace, you must know the shape of war, even when it wears a kind face. That doesn't mean accusing everyone of bad intentions. It means paying attention to patterns rather than promises. Ask yourself, do I feel smaller after spending time with this person, or stronger? Do I leave conversations feeling clear or foggy? Do I feel seen or studied? Your body often knows the answer before your mind does. The tension in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the sudden urge to apologize for no reason. These are signals from your deeper intelligence. Ignoring them is how erosion begins. Honoring them is how it ends. When you understand the hidden nature of such people, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop explaining away your instincts. You stop confusing manipulation with mentorship, pity with love, or control with care. You remember that your attention is precious, your energy sacred. Not everyone who reaches for it deserves to hold it. In the Shaolin discipline, silence and stillness are not weaknesses, they are shields. They allow you to observe without reacting, to see without being pulled into the performance. The moment you see clearly, the spell begins to break. The illusion loses its grip because its power rests on your unawareness. Once you recognize that not all enemies show their weapons openly, you move differently. You speak less, listen more, and trust your own signals. You realize that your clarity is not just protection, it is freedom. And freedom, once felt, is something no hidden enemy can take from you. Manipulation does not always look like force. More often, it feels like a soft hand guiding you, a familiar voice suggesting what seems harmless, a smile that hides a hook. These individuals survive on a form of nourishment that isn't food or money, but your emotional energy. They feed on your reactions, your confusion, your constant attempts to explain yourself. They twist your truths into fog, not because they misunderstand you, but because they know the fog will keep you off balance. When you are anxious, confused, or doubting yourself, you are easier to control, and control is what they crave most. Not because it makes them powerful, but because without it they feel empty. Every story they tell, every question they ask, every gesture of concern is designed to keep your focus circling around them. You may notice that your interactions with such people feel strangely rehearsed. They don't just react to you, they anticipate you. They know which words will make you defend yourself, Which silences will make you chase their approval? Which gestures will make you feel guilty? They turn your virtues, patience, loyalty, empathy, into weapons against you. You begin to notice patterns but then second guess them, because they also sprinkle in praise, charm, and little favors to keep you unsure. Praise is not their goal. Conflict is not their goal. What feeds them is your reaction, the emotional energy you release when you are confused, guilty, or restless. This is why after being with them you feel drained while they seem strangely energized. They create loops of interaction that are hard to escape. You explain yourself and somehow end up apologizing. You set a boundary and end up feeling selfish. You try to clarify a misunderstanding and end up doubting your memory. This is not an accident, it's a pattern. In Shaolin practice, energy leakage was treated as a form of self-loss. We were taught that attention is life. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And when someone constantly pulls your attention back to them, whether through drama, flattery, or guilt, they are quietly drawing power from you. It is an extraction, not a conversation. The danger of manipulation and control is that it creeps in slowly. No one wakes up one day and suddenly feels powerless. It happens in increments. A small concession here, a swallowed truth there, a moment of self-doubt, a missed signal. Over time, your inner compass starts spinning. You start asking them for permission to feel what you feel. You start waiting for their reaction before you act. Without noticing, your life begins to orbit around their moods, their opinions, their silent judgments. They don't even have to demand it out loud. The energy you give them freely is enough. Recognizing this pattern is not about becoming cold or cynical, it's about returning to your center. When you sense that someone leaves you foggy and off balance, sit in silence after the interaction. Pay attention to your breath. Is it shallow? Is your chest tight? Is your mind restless? Those are signs of an extraction. In that moment, you can start to reclaim your space. Stop explaining, stop defending, stop feeding the loop. Respond less, observe more. The less you react, the less fuel they have. Manipulation and control lose their grip the moment you see them for what they are. Clarity is their enemy. Silence is their undoing. When you stop giving your reactions away, their strategies collapse. You begin to feel your strength returning, not as aggression but as presence. You remember that your energy is your responsibility. It is not your duty to supply someone else's emptiness. In Shaolin discipline, power is never about controlling others. It is about mastering yourself. The more you protect your attention, the less anyone can twist your truths into fog. And once you stand in that clarity, the confusion ends, the exhaustion fades, and the balance that was always yours returns. There is a special kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot heal. It appears after conversations that seem ordinary, after meetings that seem polite, after time spent with people who appear supportive and even affectionate. On the surface, nothing is wrong. The words they speak sound kind, the gestures look caring, the advice feels helpful, yet something inside you feels heavy, like a quiet leak in your strength. These people mirror your values, echo your dreams, and reflect your principles back to you so precisely that you mistake the reflection for sincerity. But their kindness is selective. It shines when others are watching, fades when no one can see, and returns only when they need to draw you back into their orbit. They do not move with your rhythm. They study it, memorize it, and use it to guide you where they want you to go. In this way, they pull you into their energy field, not with force but with subtle gravity, while keeping their true intentions hidden behind charm. When you are around such people, you may notice that your emotions begin to shift in ways you can't explain. You might feel anxious without knowing why, restless without a clear trigger, or guilty for things that aren't even your responsibility. This is the sign of emotional draining energy. It isn't a sudden attack, it's a steady siphoning. Each time you confide in them, they gather information about you. Each time you share your pain, they measure your breaking points. Each time you relax in their presence, they learn the rhythms of your speech, your breathing, your silences. What they offer back is not true support, but a calculated performance of it. They may give you encouragement one moment and subtle criticism the next, creating a cycle where you chase their approval and doubt yourself at the same time. This is why after spending time with them you may feel as if your center has shifted. Your thoughts loop back to the conversation. You replay what was said, wondering if you misheard or overreacted. Your body feels heavy yet your mind is restless. In Shaolin training, this would be recognized not as ordinary fatigue, but as an energy disturbance. The masters taught that energy is not symbolic. It is a living current flowing through the breath, the spine, the heart. When you are aligned, you feel clear, steady, and whole. When someone is draining you, you feel scattered, shallow, and ungrounded. This difference is subtle but unmistakable when you learn to sense it. The danger of emotional draining energy is that it makes you doubt your own perception. Because the gestures of kindness are real enough to see, you assume the intention must also be real. You tell yourself you're being too sensitive. You rationalize the uneasiness. You give more chances. But every time you do, the leak widens. Over time, your boundaries blur, your instincts go quiet. You begin to feel smaller without knowing why. This is not weakness. It is a sign that someone has learned to feed on your openness. Breaking this cycle begins with awareness. Notice how you feel after each interaction, not just during it. Pay attention to the rhythm of your breath, the tone of your inner voice, the weight in your chest. If you leave feeling drained rather than nourished, that is data. Trust it. You don't need to accuse or confront, you only need to reclaim your space. In Shaolin practice, stillness is not escape, it is defense. When you become still inside, the pull of another's energy loses its grip. Their performance becomes clear, their timing obvious, their selective kindness exposed. Emotional draining energy cannot survive in the light of sustained awareness. The moment you stop feeding it with your reactions and attention, it begins to fade. You remember who you are. You return to your own rhythm instead of theirs. And as your clarity grows, their power shrinks, not because you fight them, but because you stop supplying what they need. This is the quiet strength the masters spoke of, not striking back, but refusing to be taken. Once you master that, no hidden intention can pull you away from yourself again. Lies and deception are rarely loud, they are often subtle, layered, and carefully woven into the fabric of your daily life. A human demon does not come storming in with obvious betrayal, because that would make it easier for you to see them for what they are. Instead, they erode you slowly, bit by bit, until one day you realize your trust has been broken, your patience stretched beyond measure, and your clarity clouded. They are skilled in this craft, turning the very qualities that make you strong, your kindness, discipline, and loyalty, into weapons against you. They create a rhythm of small untruths, half answers, and inconsistencies that keep you questioning your own instincts, while they stand in the shadows, confident that you will continue to give them the benefit of the doubt. The dangerous part about lies is not just the untruth itself, but the distortion it creates in your reality. Every time they bend the truth, you are forced to adjust, to reconcile, to rationalize. You find yourself explaining away their inconsistencies, excusing their contradictions, and overlooking the red flags because you want to believe in them. Deception is not about one big betrayal, it is about hundreds of small ones stacked quietly on top of each other, until your sense of what is real begins to slip. The demon thrives in that fog, because as long as you are confused, you cannot confront them with clarity. They use time as their weapon, dragging things out just long enough that you lose sight of the patterns forming right in front of you. They understand your discipline. They know you are the type who keeps promises, who honors your word, who believes in patience and forgiveness. And so they weaponize that against you. They break your trust in small, calculated doses, knowing that your loyalty will keep you tied to them longer than it should. They apologize just enough to keep you hopeful, just enough to reset the cycle. But every reset leaves you weaker, every promise unkept leaves you more drained, every inconsistency leaves you less sure of yourself. Over time, you are no longer standing firm in your power. You are balancing on a foundation they have cracked beneath you. The worst part is that these lies are not always outright falsehoods. Often, they are omissions, distortions, carefully crafted half-truths. They will tell you just enough to sound honest while withholding the piece that would expose their intention. They use language as a smokescreen, throwing in just enough emotion, just enough vulnerability to make you believe their story. They manipulate timelines, shift details, and play with your memory until you begin to doubt your own recollection of events. You begin to think, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's me. That's how deception works, not by making you see them differently, but by making you see yourself differently. And once you no longer trust yourself, they have won. Because if you can't trust your instincts, you have no compass. If you can't rely on your perception, you are lost in their narrative. This is where human demons thrive, in the chaos of confusion, in the cracks of your self-doubt. They want you second, guessing everything so that they can remain the constant voice you lean on. They slowly dismantle your clarity until their version of reality becomes the only one that feels stable. That's why their lies cut deeper than betrayal. It's not just about what they told you. It's about how they made you question your own mind. But here's the truth they can't hide forever. Deception always leaves a trail. Lies may create fog, but the fog eventually lifts. When you begin to notice the patterns, when you finally see that your patience has been stretched into chains and your kindness turned into captivity, the spell breaks. You realize the weapon they used against you was never stronger than your will. It only worked because you believed in them more than you believed in yourself. Once you return to clarity, once you reclaim your inner compass, their lies collapse under their own weight. And that is the moment the demon loses its power, because no deception can withstand the light of truth for long. They want to sit at the very center of your mind, not as a guest but as a ruler. They want to occupy your thoughts until you no longer know where your voice ends and theirs begins. This is the true nature of someone who thrives on your pain. They do not simply harm you from the outside, they infiltrate your inner world. Every comment, every criticism, every subtle suggestion they make is designed to shift the way you think about yourself. Over time, their goal is not just to influence your behavior, but to rearrange your entire perception. When they achieve this, you begin doubting your instincts, your memories, even your ability to choose what's right for you. They don't just wound you. They reshape you into someone easier to control. What makes this so dangerous is how slow and deliberate it is. They don't announce their intentions or declare their power. They feed on your emotions, on your vulnerabilities, on the soft spots you've shown them in trust. They watch your reactions, study your triggers, and use that knowledge to twist your reality just enough to keep you unsteady. They plant small doubts about your abilities, your worth, your decisions, until those doubts become a chorus echoing in your head. And while you're busy trying to silence those doubts, they are busy feeding off the chaos inside you. Your pain becomes their nourishment, your confusion their strategy. This is why people like this don't mind when you succeed on the surface. They may even clap for you, support you, smile at your wins. But underneath it all, they are waiting for the cracks. The moments when you feel weak, ashamed, or unsure. Those are the moments they thrive on, because those are the moments when you're easiest to reach. Pain softens boundaries. Pain makes you vulnerable. Pain makes you crave comfort, even if that comfort comes from the same person who caused the wound. And that's the trap. They wound you, then present themselves as the only one who understands, the only one who can soothe you, the only one you can trust. Over time, this creates a cycle. They create pain, you feel pain, and then you turn back to them for relief. But the relief never truly comes. It's only enough to keep you tethered. They sit at the center of your mind because you unknowingly hand them the keys, thinking you are seeking support. This is not support, it's ownership. It's the slow surrender of your inner space. And every time you let them speak into your self-doubt, every time you let them rewrite your story, you give them another brick to build their throne inside you. But here's the truth, they can only thrive on pain you allow them to cultivate. They can only rearrange your thoughts if you stop trusting your own. Their power is parasitic, not inherent. They need your confusion to survive. They need your silence to grow. They need your self-betrayal to hold their position. The moment you start questioning their narrative, the moment you begin to trust your instincts again, the hold begins to loosen. Pain stops being fuel and starts becoming a warning sign. You must reclaim the center of your mind. You must remind yourself that your thoughts are yours, your instincts are yours, and your clarity is your birthright. This is not a battle you fight by arguing with them. It's a battle you win by strengthening yourself. Every boundary you set, every moment you choose silence over reaction, every time you step back and breathe instead of engaging, that is you taking your mind back. That is you cutting off their supply of pain. And when you do that consistently, something shifts. They no longer find nourishment in your life because your pain no longer feeds them. They can't rearrange what you've anchored in truth. They can't distort a mind that refuses to be clouded. They can't sit at the center of a space you have filled with self-respect, self-trust, and self-love. Their power withers because it was never truly theirs, it was borrowed from you. And once you stop lending it, they lose it. That is when you rise. Not just free from their control, but stronger than before. Because you've learned the most important lesson of all. No one can thrive on your pain unless you give them access to it. Their comfort in your suffering keeps you small. Because as long as you are hurting, you are not growing. That is the twisted satisfaction of those who act like demons in disguise. They do not want to see you rise. They do not want to see you free. They do not want to witness your transformation. Your stagnation is their victory. Your pain is their security. They know that if you remain broken, confused, or doubtful, you will not have the strength to outgrow them. So, they quietly work to keep you trapped in the same cycle of limitation, because a version of you that is wounded and hesitant is easier for them to manage. Growth requires clarity, vision, and courage. It demands that you trust yourself, step into new opportunities, and embrace the unknown. But when someone is constantly whispering doubts into your ear, when they are feeding you lies and reinforcing your insecurities, you hesitate. You shrink back from the doors that could open your future. You stop taking risks because you've been conditioned to believe you will fail. And every time you hesitate, every time you choose fear over faith, they win. Not because they are stronger, but because they have successfully convinced you to dim your own light. This is how your growth gets blocked, not by chains you can see, but by invisible barriers woven into your mind. They keep you distracted with drama, overwhelmed with confusion, and drained by self-doubt so that you have no energy left to focus on your goals. And because they thrive in keeping you small, They will never encourage your evolution. If anything, they will sabotage it. They might downplay your ideas, laugh at your dreams, or constantly remind you of your past mistakes. They will shift conversations away from your progress and turn them back toward your flaws. Slowly, you begin to believe that maybe you are not meant for more, that maybe growth is for others, not you. But this is all an illusion. The truth is, the potential inside you has not disappeared. It has only been buried under their manipulation. They create the fog, but the fog is not permanent. When you reclaim your clarity, when you step back and truly see how much of your suffering was manufactured by their influence, the illusion shatters. You begin to recognize that the limitations you thought were yours were never real. They were planted. And once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. Their hold on you weakens, because lies lose power in the presence of awareness. Reclaiming your clarity means remembering who you were before their influence. It means silencing their voice so you can hear your own again. It means separating your true identity from the distorted reflection they tried to impose on you. As you rebuild your self-trust, as you start to honor your instincts, you naturally begin to grow again. And growth is the one thing they cannot control, because once you step into it, you no longer need their validation, their approval, or their presence. Growth breaks chains. It exposes every tactic they used against you. It makes their comfort in your suffering impossible, because you are no longer suffering, you are rising. The stronger you become, the less space they have in your life. The more you expand, the smaller they appear. What once felt like power over you is revealed as nothing more than an illusion they projected into your mind. And when the illusion breaks, so does their control. This is why protecting your clarity is non-negotiable. Because clarity fuels growth, and growth dismantles every chain of manipulation. Once you see the game for what it is, once you understand how they thrived on keeping you small, you will never again allow yourself to be confined. You will move differently, think differently, and choose differently. And the moment you do, they lose their grip completely. For in the light of your growth, their shadow cannot survive. The truth is, human demons do not always announce themselves with horns and fire. They come quietly, hidden behind charm, kindness, or familiarity. They manipulate your reactions, drain your energy, twist truth into deception, thrive on your pain, and do everything in their power to keep you small. But their power was never real. It was borrowed from you. It only worked because you believed them more than you believed yourself. The moment you reclaim your clarity, everything changes. You begin to see through the fog, to recognize the patterns, and to trust your instincts again. You realize that your peace is your protection, your silence is your weapon, and your growth is your ultimate revenge. Their illusion breaks because truth always outlives deception. And once you know who you are, no one can rearrange your thoughts, control your emotions, or block your destiny. So protect your mind, guard your energy, trust your instincts, and when someone tries to thrive on your pain, remind yourself their survival depends on your suffering, but your growth depends on your freedom. Choose freedom every time, because the moment you rise, their hold shatters, and you step into the life that was always meant for you. Stronger, wiser, and untouchable.